Wait, to get started, select stream.
Is it not streaming? Okay.
Oh, it should be.
Let me open.
I just updated the OBS. Oh yeah.
Oh wait, where is it?
Okay, excellent connection.
Oh, I added everybody.
You did? See, does it say we're live on?
Well, I'm really...
Yes, we are live. Well, how does everything sound to the 3 or 4 people that are currently in the chat?
Oh, okay, there we are.
Yeah, I don't think they responded. Where's Bill Hicks and everybody? Oh, wait, I gotta put the... Okay. So, why haven't we been live in, like, the last month?
Well, I've been busy moving.
Yeah, she's been... Kimberly's been busy moving to Baltimore. Staying at my place temporarily. But I guess people have been in the Discord clamoring about what our thoughts are. What's going on in Iran.
Yeah, so, unfortunately I haven't been keeping up with the news, because...
Yeah.
I've been busy moving across the country.
Where were you living before? Texas. Oh, you don't want people to know that. Oh, Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't Baltimore better?
See?
Than Dallas?
There you go. Yeah, it's more unique.
Okay, well, anyway, let's get into the politics.
Tonight at 10, as rockets...
Those who want to complain, we're watching it in descending order. So, I'm starting with some videos that are from, like, a week ago, but most of the videos are from the past few days.
Continue to rain down across the Middle East. Britain agrees to let US forces use British bases to strike Iran.
What's that?
There's a war in Iran, and then there's a war in every other country that surrounds it, basically.
Yeah, shit's hitting the fan. So,
in Israel.
Pakistan has been butting heads with the Taliban, which, ironically, Pakistan is responsible for pretty much the creation of the Taliban. And now you have, like, a splinter cell of the Taliban that's murdering people within the, like, Pashtun territory on the borders of Pakistan and Afghanistan. They've sent troops in. Now Israel, which they've been in their forever war with Gaza, they've attacked Lebanon quite a few times, but apparently they're striking Lebanon hard. And the United States and Israel have also decided, hey, why not attack Iran?
Yeah, okay.
And
crazy.
It's the Great Middle Eastern War.
The capital, Tehran, has been the main target, with the authorities there saying hundreds of civilians have been killed. A hospital has also been hit.
Is that northern Iran?
That's their capital.
Okay, is it north?
Yeah, I think it is north.
Alright.
It followed earlier strikes targeting the regime's headquarters in the capital, still reeling after the death of the supreme leader.
And that was their second supreme leader. So there's now a third one that they've appointed, and apparently he's known for being far more, like, malicious and malevolent than his predecessors.
In the last hour, the Prime Minister has accepted a request from the US to use British military bases to launch defensive strikes.
And I do know other Western allies are getting involved now.
Here in the US, President Trump has announced the deaths of 3 service personnel as he says American combat operations will continue until all of its objectives have been achieved.
Over the past 36 hours, the United States and its partners have launched Operation Epic Fury, one of the largest, most complex...
Epic Fury?
Okay, that seems like... I'm guessing Trump came up with that name. That seems like the kind of name you'd expect some 12-year-old to come up with.
Yeah.
But Epic Fury, yeah! Epic carnage!
Overwhelming military offensives the world has ever seen.
Also, global economic fears tonight as an oil tanker under sanction from America is attacked in a key shipping lane. The Iranians are striking back, targeting Israel.
Strait of Hormuz. So, that's body of water, very important. The Arabian Sea, like, goes through the Strait of Hormuz, and that connects, allows the UAE, Qatar, and Kuwait, which are really oil-rich countries, to get their, like, commercial, like, vessels to the Arab Sea and into, like, the Atlantic, Mediterranean, across the globe. And 20% of the world's oil goes through the Strait of Hormuz, and it has to go through Iran, because Iran controls a large chunk of it. So they have the ability to kind of shut it down if they want to, and this is something they did in their 10-year war with Iraq that took place in the 80s, where, like, they called it the Tanker Wars, where...
Look, it's frozen.
It is? Well, I paused it.
Oh,
or
okay.
is it? Oh, yeah, it's paused.
Okay.
Yeah, but apparently, like, we actually supported Saddam in that war, and Saddam was trying to annex territory, and that's why he annexed Kuwait later, because he wanted to have a coastline, so they had access to that body of water.
Wait, you gotta pull up the map. There's way too
Okay.
much going on. Just do Google Maps.
Oh, what's the chat saying?
Well, they were saying, that, are you a leftist?
I'm a centrist. Nah.
All you can do is insult. They're just reporting the news.
Yeah, it goes in the Persian Gulf.
Oh, Justin's here. Hi, Justin. Epstein Fury. That's funny. Yeah, okay, so which one,
So this is Iran, and it's the Persian Gulf, or Arabian Gulf, I guess that's disputed. And here's Saudi Arabia, UAE. So I guess UAE, they have a small coastline that allows them to, I guess, ship oil, even if they're not, like, in the Persian Gulf. But Kuwait,
Arabian, okay.
yeah, and Qatar, which are
What was that Strait of you were talking about?
right here. Strait of Hormuz,
Oh,
which
okay.
connects the Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Oman. And then, I guess, like, a large percentage of the world's trade goes through the Suez Canal, so the tankers would likely sail through the Gulf of Aden, the Red Sea, through the Mediterranean, sell all the oil to all the rich Western countries. So, yep, and price of oil's been really going up because of it.
Yeah, I had to pay $50 for my last fill up.
Yeah, so
Well,
I mean,
I do premium, to be fair.
yeah, so they're pretty much weaponizing that, and that's how they got the rest of the world involved, like, in the, like, Iraq war was, like, shooting down all the oil tankers, so it seems like they're renewing that strategy.
Israel, 9 people have died in the city of Beit Shemesh, while commercial flights have been suspended across the Middle East. This, Dubai's airport, a major gateway to the Gulf.
Dubai, yeah, it was like Dubai's right there. Where are you reporting to?
Hello to you on another dramatic day of developments here in the Middle East as Israel launches more airstrikes against targets in Iran, which came after state television there confirmed the death of the supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. 3 US service personnel have also been killed, the first to die in the conflict. And in the last hour, Sir Keir Starmer says the UK will allow the United States to use British military bases to launch defensive strikes. Well, Israeli forces have been carrying out a sustained bombing campaign of Iranian targets, including in the capital Tehran, where command centers of the Revolutionary Guard have been
Oh,
hit.
and one thing, America ended up bombing a school, or likely was the United States, could have been Israel, but it was like 160, 170 children died. Imagine if a bomb hit an American school and like 160-something kids died.
Oh, well, school
And
shooters already do that.
Yeah.
Go on.
Well, not to that degree. They only kill like 10, 20 kids at a time. But the United States is doing like what Israel does, where they blame it on Hamas. They're trying to blame it on Iran. Like, oh, their like artillery
Yeah.
sucks and they misfired. It was them, not us.
Tonight, witnesses also report a hospital in the city was struck, with patients having to be evacuated. The Iranians have been retaliating with their own missile strikes right across the region. 9 people were killed in the city of Beit Shemesh in Israel. 11 others are missing. While missiles also hit us here in Tel
Now,
Aviv over
Iran fired a large amount of missiles at Israel like last year, and none of them really hit. They hit a couple targets, but the vast majority of them were shot down by their like Iron Dome system. So it seems like they started. Now they're launching strikes at Israel and other neighboring countries. They've been launching strikes at like all the like Arab like countries like Kuwait, the UAE, and so forth. And they've been bombing like banks and different like commercial buildings because they're not guarded as well as like military bases. So they've been doing the best they can to hit as much targets as they can because like all these other countries do have superior military tech, or at least Israel does. But it seems like they actually got some ballistics through and actually managed to destroy some civilian infrastructure in Israel.
Night, with one woman being killed and around 20 others injured. We witnessed that strike
Justin says 200 girls.
as the missile came in, not far off in the distance behind our position here. The target, an Israeli military facility, but the munitions fell short. Throughout the day, we've also had numerous air raid sirens go off here, spending several minutes each time in a bomb shelter. Things are, thankfully, a little quieter now. Well, Iran says hundreds of civilians have been killed since the assault began.
And Skeppy's here. See?
Reported
You gotta say hi to everybody when they show up in the chat.
our international editor, Jeremy Bowen.
Tehran is being hammered for a second night. The Americans and the Israelis are pushing hard to
Hammered.
exploit any Iranian weakness or confusion after the killing of their supreme leader. The message is that they dominate the skies and there's no place to hide. Back in the US, Donald Trump told the regime to capitulate or else.
We are the world's greatest and most powerful nation, so we can do something about what they do. These intolerable threats will not
Yes,
continue.
we have a large military. We're able to bombard different countries and stuff, beat our chest.
any longer.
That's what's important, is how strong your military is.
Once again,
Nothing
urge
else
the
matters.
Revolutionary Guard, the Iranian military, and police to lay down your arms and receive full immunity or face certain death. It will be certain death. Won't be pretty. I call upon all Iranian patriots who yearn for freedom to seize this moment, to be brave, be bold, be heroic, and take back your country.
And in Tehran, a strike hit the headquarters of the state broadcasting company. The Gandhi Hospital in North Tehran and 3 residential
looks
buildings
like,
next to it were badly
golf
damaged.
carts in
Unless they're being used as
Baltimore.
No. Baltimore's the greatest city in America.
military positions. The laws of war say
Well, that's what they call it. Like I told you, they have these park benches that say the city that reads, and a bunch of people who are haters will use graffiti to cross out where it says reads and replace it with bleeds. City that bleeds.
Oh.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that.
This incubator pushed out into the street seems to have a baby in it. In a city under attack, thousands of supporters of the regime gathered for the first of 40 days of mourning for the supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. The regime retains a solid base of support despite the recent mass protests. His killing is a huge blow for regime loyalists and a seismic moment in this war, but it doesn't necessarily mean the end of the regime.
Now, I don't know if he's worse than the first supreme leader, but the first supreme leader, Khamenei, he pretty much gained power shortly or a little bit before their war with Iraq. And one of the things Iraq did, which the Iran-Iraq war went on for a decade throughout the entire 80s. So there's a lot of parallels with the Ukraine-Russian war, where it's this World War I style trench warfare where they were just locked in the stalemate. And he was doing what Putin's doing, where they would just use untrained troops and throw them out on the front lines. So they'd be gunned down, but it would expose the positions of all the Iraqi troops. And that resulted in there was over 2 million deaths in the Iraq-Iran war. And there were tens of thousands of soldiers that were just used as sacrificial lambs by Khomeini. But then Saddam used chemical weapons against the Kurdish and against the Iranians in that war. He even attacked civilian areas. So both dictators in that war, one pretty much sacrificed a bunch of teens, young adults as meat grinder, sacrificial lambs. The other one used chemical weapons.
Its founders nearly 50 years ago designed its institutions to survive wars and assassinations. It is not a one-man show. Iran is extending the war into the Gulf. 2 weeks ago, it released video of naval commandos practicing blockading the vital sea lane through the Strait of Hormuz. And now
Somebody said, 1983 against the Kurdish. And the Kurdish supposedly are going to get involved in this war.
Who's
So-
that again?
So in northern Iraq, there's a territory, and they're not just in Iraq. They're also there's Kurdish regions in Iran and everything. And in Iran, they speak Persian. So Iran used to be Persia before they changed their name, in the early 20th century. And that was during the British Mandate. So after World War I, because they used to be colonies of the Ottoman Empire, Britain and France divided all the different Middle Eastern regions amongst themselves. And then post-World War II, it's okay, we got to get rid of all the colonies. So there was the British Mandate that separated like Israel from Palestine, and then pretty much carved out that chunk of the land for the Israelis. And then they didn't do like similar to Africa, where they drew all of these unnatural borders that cut through different ethnic groups. The Kurdish people are considered I think they're the most heavily populated stateless ethnic group, so they don't have a state of their own. And a large amount of them are in Iraq, and they speak Kurdish as opposed to Arabic, because that's the language most Iraqis speak. And because of that, they're kind of treated like a separate entity, a separate, like a lot of, racial politics. They don't speak the same language as us. They're another people. So they aren't given the same kind of, I guess, respect that other citizens have in the country that speak the right language.
For real. Stopping oil exports from the Gulf longer term would cause global economic damage. In peacetime,
wild chats.
I don't know if you could say the Americans gave him the chemical weapons. They definitely gave Saddam a lot of funding, and they were also selling weapons to Iran. You had the Iran-Contra affairs, where the United States was dealing with like the war against communism. So in Nicaragua and other like Central American countries, when they were trying to support these regimes rebelling against the communist governments there, they were selling weapons to Iran in the Iran-Iraq war to support those regimes. At the same time, Israel and all of them were funding Iraq. And then ironically, they kind of created their own demon. Saddam ended up invading Kuwait like a decade or two later, and then that resulted in Desert Storm. So it never ends.
around 1/5 of world oil supplies, 20 million barrels a day, are shipped out of the Gulf through Hormuz.
And during the Iran-Iraq war.
Hormuz. Okay.
Yeah. During the Iran-Iraq war, like a little less than a decade in, the United States accidentally shot down a commercial aircraft, and they killed like close to like 200 citizens.
Nice.
Yeah.
Leave it to the
Only
US.
10 kilometers wide at their narrowest point. This burning tanker is believed to be used for Iranian exports the US Navy is hitting back. In Tehran and other cities, some Iranians dared to celebrate Khamenei's death. Killing the Ayatollah strips the war to its essentials. On one side, Donald Trump's belief that US and Israeli air power and assassinations will clear the way for the regime's opponents to seize power. And on the other, the resilience of the regime. This is Israeli military video of another strike at a base in Tehran. It's now clear what this war is all about for Israel and the US, regime change imposed by air power, something never done before. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said, "This combined effort allows us to do what..."
Somebody said Iran was supported by USA. And so, yeah, before the Ayatollahs took over, one of the things the United States was doing is they supported a coup that ousted, they had a prime minister. So they had like an elected official, and the United States supported a coup to put some monarch in charge. So they replaced the more democratic government with a monarchy, and they were allies with Iran up until like the Ayatollahs took over, and that was and then they ended up going into embassy. A bunch of students like held hundreds of Americans hostage, and they were held hostage for like a few years, and that overlapped with the Iran-Iraq war.
"I've hoped to achieve for 40 years, to crush the regime of terror completely. That's my promise," he said, and this is what is going to happen. Salvage operations continue at the girls' school in southern Iran, destroyed in an airstrike on day one of the bombing. Iranian officials now say 153 were killed here, including many schoolgirls.
The world must know the truth.
Hamas did it.
This is a child's textbook. The children are buried beneath the rubble, and they were all civilians. They came here for school this morning.
The US has not eased up its bombing campaign. While this was going on, Donald Trump told the US magazine The Atlantic that Iran's surviving leaders want to talk and that he's agreed. But they were talking before the US and Israel attacked them, too. All day Tehran was under fire. Iran cannot match American and Israeli firepower, but it might not need to. Iran can fight back. It is not facing a ground invasion, and victory for the regime means the survival of the Islamic Republic, no matter who the US and Israel kill. Jeremy Bowen, BBC News.
Yes, that's one of the big war. What's that?
Sorry. Please do the research. USA government actually instigated Iraq to fight Iran to tackle the 1979 revolution in Iran, and the chemical weapons are part of their supplies to Iraq.
Well, like, I'm acknowledging that the United States did a lot of wrong in the conflict between the two countries, and they definitely instigated it. So I'm not saying that the United States has its hands clean. And I did say I don't know 100% when it came to the chemical weapons. Like, I don't know how much the United States fostered it, but they definitely supported a dictator who was using chemical weapons. I'm not going to doubt that they knew what was happening. So in the best case scenario, like when it came to the United States, was they were giving money to a fascist regime that they knew they were building chemical weapons, and they decided that they weren't going to cut support regardless.
Well, within the last hour, the UK has agreed to an American request to use British military bases.
And now I think the UK is actually getting involved. So now it's not just the US and Israel. I think other European, like NATO countries, are sending troops in as well.
Into Iran?
Yep.
Joins us live from Tel Aviv.
Why?
And John, what do we...
Because the West, they need to police the world.
But
that usually happens when the United States sends troops somewhere. Usually Britain and France are right behind the United States, acting as world police.
Yeah, but like, was it just because they were talking about building nuclear weapons, or because the protests or something?
So they're claiming that they want to build like nuclear energy facilities. Now, Iran has a very, very large stockpile of uranium that's needed, and I think plutonium as well, for creating nuclear tech, but they believe they're going to try to develop nuclear weapons. Now, the problem is that if they actually develop nuclear weapons, will they use them? Because if they just develop a few dozen nuclear weapons to use as a deterrent, it's maybe they just don't want them to have nukes because the United States and other countries kind of just want to do as they please in that area, and you can see they're bombing the hell out of them. But, of course, I'm not going to say the Ayatollahs that they're innocent. They don't do a lot of fucked up shit. So you got a lot of the civilians protesting, and Trump's trying to, claim that it's out of altruism. They're going there to protect the protesters, which...
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because they were burning down the whole city, because they had that financial problem, right? The business owners they were all failing or something like that.
Well, yeah, they've been having a lot of issues economically, much of the globe. But it's similar to Trump giving, asylum to all the white South Africans, acting like he's doing it out of, altruism, when really it's just because they're white.
What's the whites? Yeah.
Yeah.
The Christian, yeah.
Seeing and hearing in terms of...
They need to be protected.
Yeah, and that was something he was doing in, with Nigeria.
Yeah.
Those missiles that we think are being fired towards Israel from Iran.
Well, almost all of those missiles have been shot down by Israel's missile defense system, but some are getting through. We're in the center of Tel Aviv. You can see it's a residential neighborhood, and behind me is where one of those missiles struck last night. Blew out.
And I will say, when it comes to the general public in Iran, I would say that they're pretty progressive. One thing, several years ago, their police, or they call them the religious police, they beat a young woman to death because she wasn't wearing her hijab. And it seems like in Iran, it's becoming more of the popular stance that women shouldn't have to appeal to those sort of antiquated standards. Women should be allowed to dress as they please. So it seems like the ethics and the general opinions of the public do not coincide with the government, which is pretty much the case for every country on the planet.
Apartment block where a lot of people were living. Now, quite a few people will have been in the shelter, but one person was killed there, a woman who we understand she was Filipino, a caregiver to someone who was living in that apartment. A lot of people actually out on the streets this morning coming to take a look. I've just seen one woman pointing up to her apartment, badly damaged, in tears. And this morning, it's been pretty lively. There have been several large barrages of missiles. Just as we were driving into Tel Aviv, directly overhead, we saw 2 interceptors go up, 2 loud explosions as they took out a missile coming in. I think the question is, given how diminished, how degraded Iran's military capabilities have been over the past year, really, how long can they keep this up? They've said this is going to be the most devastating operation of retaliation in their history, but how capable and how willing are they to continue it?
And John, what's the feeling within Israel in terms of people and what they think about?
Next vid. Oh, and Iran, they do have a decent industry, I guess, when it comes to drone tech. One of the things that notable affair that they've been involved in is they were selling suicide drones or kamikaze drones to Russia. When the Ukraine-Russian war happened, when there were universal sanctions against Russia, they were one of the few countries willing to actually sell military tech to them. They also have a decent cyber warfare division in their military, because in the Obama administration they developed this Stuxnet virus that was designed to pretty much spread itself to as many devices as possibly could. So in networking, there's a thing called an air gap. Do you know what an air gap is?
Mm-mm.
It's where it's not connected wirelessly, so you have to get in there directly or on in front of the hardware in order to install it. So it was pretty much installing itself on as many phones, devices, flash drives as it could until it got to their research facility. And then in the nuclear generators, you have the pylons. It pretty much fucked with the rotation of the pylons and caused them to shift back and forth abruptly. And they pretty much used malware to pretty much destroy their nuclear facility. And then that got them to sign on the Iran nuclear energy deal, which Trump pretty much demolished. But in response, Iran invested heavily in their cyber warfare unit, and they definitely conducted notable hacks against the United States quite a few times. So, but you can't blame them, because we did the same thing. Yep, our subterfuge.
Your U.S. Central Command says 3 fighter jets were shot down by friendly fire from Kuwaiti forces. CENTCOM says all 6 crew members aboard the jets ejected were safely recovered and are in stable condition. Now, CNN geolocated...
Now, I do believe there's been a handful of U.S. soldiers that have died so far.
Video that appears to be an F-15 falling from the sky, the pilot parachuting out. There's also video that appears to show a pilot safe on the ground after ejecting. Now, the aircraft were F-15 Strike Eagle fighter jets. CENTCOM says Kuwaiti air defenses mistakenly shot them down during active combat that included attacks from Iranian aircraft, ballistic missiles, and drones. The cause of the incident under investigation. Now, CNN following all the latest developments from around the globe, the White House, the Gulf, inside Saudi Arabia, and Israel. Let's start there. Our Nick Payton-Walsh is in Tel Aviv.
Okay, these are interviews. Next vid.
Of civilians and soldiers. Tonight we'll have teams reporting live from Beirut, Washington and London. First, our Foreign Affairs correspondent Sikander Kamani reports on the day's main events as the conflict in the Middle East escalates.
Tehran's skyline is a terrifying sight to behold. America and Israel can strike as and...
I'll criticize Biden and their administration. I don't think they were in the right supporting Israel when the conflict between Israel and the Isreal-Hamas war started. But fuck the Bush administration, fuck the Obama administration, fuck the Biden-Trump administration. They all suck.
When they like, where they like. They're pounding bases and sites linked to Iran's ruling regime. But there's no doubt civilians are also amongst the more than 500 people reported killed so far. Here, patients being evacuated from a Tehran hospital damaged by a nearby blast last night.
Please, feel free to sit.
Speaking today, President Trump gave no indication when the conflict might end.
We have the strongest and most powerful, by far, military in the world, and we will easily prevail. We're already substantially ahead of our time projections, but whatever the time is, it's okay, whatever it takes.
It's on 1.5 speed.
Yeah.
He speaks pretty slow.
Yeah.
Right from the beginning, we projected 4 to 5 weeks, but we have capability to go far longer than that.
We aren't allowed inside Iran, so it's hard to accurately gauge public opinion. The many who oppose the regime sound scared, but still hopeful that change will come.
Today, there were many airstrikes in Tehran. Moving around the city is risky. You have no idea where it can be. But I'm very happy that President Trump fulfilled his promises of helping the oppressed people of Iran.
Right now,
wait,
the
who's
war
happy? They said they're very happy Trump fulfilled his promise of helping.
It's words voiced by an actor.
Well, yeah, but
Today, there were
someone...
I don't know who
Many
they're quoting
airstrikes into
here.
Iran. Moving around the city is risky. You have no idea where it can be.
Iranian?
Well, there are like Iranian civilians protesters that are like welcoming like the United States getting involved, which I'd say they kind of just want the Ayatollahs brought out of commission. But again, the United States getting involved, I don't think they're doing it for the greater good, or they're doing it because they actually care about the people. They just care about having control in that region, being able to install a regime that allows them to control the flow of oil throughout the Strait of Hamas, and they also care a lot about the large stockpile of uranium that they have in Iran, and they don't want them to develop nuclear weapons.
But I'm very happy that President Trump fulfilled his promises of helping the oppressed people of Iran.
Right now, the war is expanding. Today, Israeli strikes on Beirut. They followed missiles fired by Hezbollah into Israel. Residents of southern Lebanon have been fleeing their homes ahead of further Israeli attacks.
Wait, so we're attacking Lebanon?
Well, yeah, so Lebanon, a decent amount of Hezbollah stationed there. They're a large military group, which is actually funded through, like, Iran, but during, like, there's been several wars Israel's been involved in throughout the 20th century, but they annexed the Golan Heights from Lebanon. So there's a lot of tension, like same thing with Palestine, everything, a lot of tension with Lebanon. And there was also the infamous like pager attack in Lebanon. They rigged a bunch of pagers to explode. So
well, remember that it wasn't a bomb, but that facility that had all that like expired shit that exploded. Remember when that happened?
I think that was in
It was crazy.
Syria or Jordan.
I think that was Lebanon.
It was Damascus. Is it Damascus? But or let me look it up real quick.
Many in the country
it was a
feel
fertilizer
into a
like
war
plant.
they don't want to be part of.
Look up
Israeli
Lebanon
air defenses are strong
explosion.
but not impenetrable. This an Iranian
you don't
missile
believe
Yeah, it's
striking a
Syria.
building in the city of
Look
Beersheba.
up Lebanon explosion. Prove me
In
wrong.
another strike.
Well, it was like
Okay, well I'll look it up. Shut
okay.
up.
Yesterday, it hit a synagogue in the center of the country. 9 people were killed.
This building has been completely destroyed. That crater over there, that's where the shelter used to be. And amidst the debris, you can see religious books.
As they prepared to bury 2 of the victims this afternoon.
2020 Beirut explosion.
Okay.
On 4 August, a major explosion occurred at Beirut, triggered by the ignition of 2,750 tons of ammonium nitrate.
Was that the fertilizer plant?
I don't fucking know. I don't know anything. The chemical confiscated in 2014 from the cargo ship MV Roses, whatever, stored at the port of Beirut without adequate safety measures for 6 years, detonated after a fire broke out in the nearby warehouse. I can't believe you don't remember this, because like there were people with their phones and you could like see the explosion like put them back. It was crazy. And then I don't know if Lebanon's always been in a bad place, but I remember seeing some travel vlogger go over there and then they were in a really bad place, like living in abandoned buildings and shit like that. Which is, yeah, I'm always like, that's too bad.
Sirens rang out.
No, I think I'm thinking of the same thing. I think I just
Syria is
misremembered
not
it.
Lebanon.
Well, no, I thought it was in Damascus, which is in Syria. So I got misremembered what city it was in.
Well, but you just pulled that up and you're like, yeah, see? And then I just pulled this up.
Okay, I stand corrected.
Well, hold on. What did you pull up?
I just looked up Damascus because I thought it was in Syria because I thought.
Oh, you didn't look up explosion Damascus.
No.
Okay.
Then they resumed mourning for mother and daughter, Sarah and Ranit Ali Melech. The pain of losing a loved one is the same wherever you happen to be born.
Yeah, it generated a seismic, is that how you spell it? Seismic event measuring 3.3 in magnitude as reported by the U.S. Geological Survey. Its effects were felt in Lebanon and neighboring regions, including Syria, Israel, Cyprus.
Yeah. Wasn't it like the largest non-nuclear explosion?
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised.
The grief here is raw.
Where
But
is
Israelis
this?
are firmly supportive of this war. believing
Well,
Israel?
yeah, this Israel, and Iran was able to hit targets in Israel.
Iran's nuclear program to be an existential threat.
I think this is a just war. I hope this is the last time we have to pay this price. And it's so sad. We'll be there for the kids and the family as much as possible.
This conflict is reverberating across the region as Iran targets America's allies in the Gulf.
Sure,
Here,
Nicholas
a US
said he
naval
graciously accepts being wrong on this one.
base in Bahrain.
Oh, I never admit that I'm wrong.
Struck by a missile. Saudi Arabia shut its biggest oil refinery following a drone strike. Whilst Qatar has halted production of liquefied natural gas,
Qatar?
spiking
Isn't it
prices
Qatar?
in both
Yeah, well, I hear people pronounce it both ways.
commodities. The risks to US troops underlined in this footage of an American F-15 plane crashing to the ground. Pilots of 3 fighter jets parachuted to safety,
You need something to help you?
greeted by confused and friendly Kuwaitis.
Thank you for helping us.
After being mistakenly shot down by the country's air defences. For now, Iran's embattled regime is still in power. For them, just surviving will be a victory. Who will back down first? The country's clerics or President Trump?
And Sekunder's with me now. So what can we say about the impact of the decapitation of the Ayatollah on the Iranian regime now?
Well, look, Krishnan, the regime is sustaining unprecedented...
Okay, next vid.
New strikes across Tehran tonight as the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran
Says
is
it was
expanding.
used, someone dropped a penny, and they're trying to get it.
Systematically destroying Iran's military, blowing up its missiles, and killing its leaders. President Trump saying it could last 4 to 5 weeks.
We will easily prevail.
4 to 5 weeks, that's
already
nothing on Putin.
I don't think it's gonna be 4 to 5 weeks. I think we're probably gonna be there for like several months at the very least.
Actually ahead of our time projections, but whatever the time is, it's okay.
The Pentagon today announcing it's sending more troops and fighter jets to join the operation, which President Trump launched at 3:38 p.m.
I don't know, there's Operation Desert Storm. I mean, that was something that was a pretty decisive victory, and that, I believe, was carried out in less than a month. So that was like dismantling or I guess Saddam was still in power afterwards, but it was in order to fight them out of Kuwait and everything. But
Let me get shit done.
yeah, I do think Iran has a much stronger military compared to other adversaries that the United States has been fighting with for like a decade, like the Taliban in Afghanistan. So I think that if they want to... I mean, there was the war in Iraq, which lasted for close to like a decade or whatever. It happened a few years after like we went to Afghanistan. So it seems like maybe we can test their military, but I don't think we're going to do a good job stabilizing the country because the United States never really does a good job stabilizing regions that it tries to invade.
The president directed, and I quote, Operation Epic Fury is approved. No aborts. Good luck, close quote.
But the war is also spreading to new countries with new risks. In Saudi Arabia, drones targeting the U.S. embassy in the capital Riyadh, a fire breaking out there. A Saudi official telling NBC News there were no injuries. In Kuwait, 3 U.S. fighter jets were shot down and seen plummeting from the sky. The Pentagon said it was friendly fire, that the jets were hit by Kuwaiti missile defense systems. The crews all ejected and survived. In this video, you can see a parachute on the ground and what appears to be an American pilot in the back of an SUV, looking healthy but rattled. As the Pentagon announced, at least 6 American service members have been killed. The Pentagon saying it now has total air superiority over Iran.
Well, who cares about the 160-something kids that died? I mean, there were 6 Americans that died. That's what's important.
Allowing the U.S. to hunt down the missile launchers Iran is using to carry out attacks, including against Israel, where an Iranian missile made it through air defenses this morning. Prime Minister Netanyahu touring a town where 9 Israelis were killed by another Iranian strike. Iran is not just hitting Israel, but multiple Arab countries. Iranian fighter jets attacked Qatar, but were shot down, according to the Qatari military. In Bahrain, Iranian drones hitting residential high-rise buildings. In Kuwait, the international airport damaged by an Iranian drone strike.
Yep.
And tonight, Iran targeting Saudi Arabia, with damage seen in these oil fields. The Washington Post reporting over the past month, Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has urged President Trump to attack Iran, according to 4 people familiar with the matter. And we've learned the U.S. and Israeli strikes were launched on Saturday because intelligence showed Iran's supreme leader would be at a meeting.
Now, we're like, when it comes to being inconsistent with America's ethics, so we're going after one sort of fascist regime, but then we like to support the monarchs in Saudi Arabia, and they're pretty oppressive, like, towards their people. So, and a lot of like Americans on the right are very like Islamophobic and xenophobic, so they want to act like yeah, pretty much anybody who's Muslim is some like barbarous sort of terrorist supporting piece of shit, and that's their like attitude. But most like Islamic countries, they're not as like draconian when it comes to their political policy or how they try to incorporate religion in their like political policies. So Saudi Arabia has some of the most extreme, some of the most oppressive sort of laws towards women. So it's like women aren't allowed to leave their homes without like a male escort. They
movie theater, they have to
yeah.
be separated. And they can't, did they just recently are able to drive? Or they're
yeah.
Okay.
And they have to dress like, they have to completely cover themselves, only their eyes can show. So what's odd is like the one state that America loves to pander to, like Saudi Arabia, they actually, ironically, like their government resembles like how they like to pretty much depict any government in the Middle East.
Of senior officials that morning, according to two sources briefed on the matter. In addition to Ayatollah Khamenei, the U.S. says 49 leaders from the Iranian regime have been killed. Iran has not confirmed all of the deaths.
We also projected 4 weeks to terminate the military leadership, and as you know, that was done in about an hour, so we're ahead of schedule there by a lot.
While inside Iran, officials say a girls' school was hit this weekend with dozens killed. The U.S. says it's investigating. There have been demonstrations supporting the Iranian regime.
What's that?
Oh, that's why Justin earlier said 200 girls.
But also Iranians celebrating the death of the Ayatollah, his government deeply unpopular among many Iranians. All as President Trump laid out the objectives of the U.S. mission.
We're destroying Iran's missile capabilities, and you see that happening on an hourly basis. Second, we're annihilating their navy. We've knocked out already 10 ships. They're at the bottom of the sea. Third, we're ensuring that the world's #1 sponsor of terror can never obtain a nuclear weapon. And finally, we're ensuring that the Iranian regime cannot continue to arm, fund, and direct terrorist armies outside of their borders.
President Trump saying Iran walked away from negotiations, but a senior negotiator directly involved.
And something like Iran and Saudi Arabia, which I'd say they're the two big micro-powers, like in the Middle East outside of like Israel, and they've been involved in this huge like sort of Cold War with one another in the Middle East for like the last several decades. And they like Iran has like supported like Hamas and Hezbollah, the Houthis, so they're known as like the axis of resistance. So kind of shows that like I don't know, like all sides have done a lot of things that are very questionable. And then of course, like, would they be doing this if the United States wasn't supporting Israel and Saudi Arabia and supporting other really problematic governments? And it's like, are they just fueling the conflict?
Tells NBC News talks were making progress and were scheduled to resume. For now, no U.S. ground troops appear to be involved, although the Pentagon is not ruling them out.
This is not Iraq. This is not endless. I was there for both. We'll go as far as we need to go to advance American interests. But we're not dumb about it. You don't have to roll 200,000 people in there and stay for 20 years.
While Secretary of State Rubio suggesting this operation is about to intensify.
The hardest hits are yet to come from the U.S. military.
Richard and his team join us live tonight from a bombed-out building there in Tel Aviv. And Richard, Israel...
And Rubio's supposed to be our Secretary of State, so they're supposed to, like, Secretary of State, they're in charge of, like, managing all the embassies, and diplomacy is their big, like, sort of responsibility. But it seems like Rubio, when you see him in the news, it's always discussions of war.
Well,
toppling regimes. That's what the Secretary of Defense is supposed to be doing, not the Secretary of State.
Isn't that what Trump wants, though?
Yeah, pretty much.
Figures for...
And U.S. forces still very much on alert tonight as Iran continues to fire. And now there's
What did he rename the Department of War or something like that?
I forget what he named it.
He renamed something of war. He put the war term in there.
I apologize for interrupting you, but I want to bring some breaking news to our viewers here. We're getting reports of some
usually
here.
I don't like to cover like the interviews, so if those start up, I just go to the next. Seems like one big interview. Next vid.
They have warned the gates of hell will open further.
Somebody says Hamas was started by Israel and America as was the Houthis and ISIS. So I don't support what Israel's been doing in Palestine. And I think the British mandate and the Zionist movement of carving out that chunk of land for Israel and displacing all the people in Palestine, I think that definitely resulted in a lot of tragedies, and it created instability in Gaza. And the instability created that power vacuum that Iran could exploit. So this is where all of the actors involved are just further fueling this ever-growing sort of conflict. So you can't just put the blame on America and Israel.
Today, Iran was seeking to send some hell to those on the receiving end of its missiles, publishing footage said to show its upgraded missile capability. Across the Middle East, smoke and flames are an Iranian calling card in once allied nations, now targeted for their associations with the Great Satan of the United States and Israel. Tonight, the US consulate in Dubai was attacked by drones. The smoke rising in the night sky. The Iranians had warned such sites would be attacked, and they are being. This is one of 1,000 attacks the UAE says it has faced since the start of this war just 4 days ago. Qatar is also being targeted. Intercepts taking down Iranian missiles.
Who's Qatar being attacked by?
Iran.
Oh.
Saudi Arabia have left the monarchy there, considering whether to join
So it's like Qatar, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait. They're typically referred to as Gulf states, and the United States and the West like to really pander to them because of the oil. And in exchange, they usually support the US in Israel and all of their affairs within the region. And again, there's lots of hypocrisy because what we care about is just people pandering to the United States and making global trade easier for the West. They don't really care about how these regimes treat the people. So they're okay if they oppress the people as long as they support the United States as opposed to Russia and China.
military action, something that would bring a religious element to this war and further inflame the region.
They hit countries that had nothing to do with what's going on. They were sort of leaving everything alone. All of a sudden, they had missiles shot in, which shows you the level of evil that we're dealing with.
Israel continues to be in Iranian sights with multiple strikes day and night. But as Iran fires out, America and Israel fire in, pursuing a myriad of ever-changing military objectives, targeting locations said to be linked with the government, military and security structure. This building housed the assembly of experts, those who will elect the next Ayatollah. It's not clear if any were inside at the time. However, the Iranians say many other civilian areas are being hit, including hospitals, and warn of the risk of this war escalating.
The process that has begun will soon...
I mean, it doesn't look as bad as in Gaza, where every day for the span of months you would see a hospital destroyed with 80 kids missing their limbs.
Yeah, they're all
reach Europe. If countries think they can sit safely in a corner until this war, this conflict ends, and then take a share of it, they are gravely mistaken. The fire of this war is highly contagious and will engulf the entire world.
There's no longer any attempt to negotiate peace, and this is the reality when diplomacy fails. Coffin after coffin. These bearing the bodies of girls killed when their school was hit on the first day of this war. All the girls in this video were among the 165 killed. Child victims of adult actions, of whom there will be many more as this war continues.
Well, Emma is with me now with a remarkable revelation.
Well, those kids, it's their fault for supporting the regime.
Well, it's that there's a video. It's so much more sadder.
Yeah.
Sadder.
Tonight that weapons have been smuggled into Iran since the 12-day war against Iran last June. The aim to supply rebel Kurdish forces, and potentially this is
there we go, the Kurdish.
Really significant development. What can you tell us?
So I've been speaking with Kurdish contacts over the past days, and they tell me that they believe that the United States is attempting to foment some kind of ground.
Let's see. Yeah, here we go. So it has
it overlaps multiple.
Yeah, and it's similar to again Africa, where you have all the unnatural borders. And Russia did this in the Central East. Stalin purposely drew up very awkward borders with Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, all those countries. So if they tried to secede from the Soviet Union, it would make things as awkward for the governing bodies within those like territories that were drawn out. And we're going to get to Pakistan, but you had the Duran Line that was, maybe I could look that up now. Yeah, when Britain annexed like India and they controlled like Burma and they controlled part of Afghanistan, Russia was expanding, and they called it the Great Game in response to colonialism. This was in like the late 19th century, and they expanded down to like the borders of Afghanistan. And then you had the Anglo-Afghan Wars, where Britain, which when they were the biggest military power on the planet throughout the 19th century and before World War I, like they tried to invade Afghanistan 3 times. And then the Soviet Union went in the 90s or the 80s, and they tried to invade Afghanistan, and they failed, and then the United States was in there for like 10 years. Now Pakistan's going to go in. And what's odd is out of all the different states you can try to blame for the creation of all these like terrorist groups, and like terrorists, like Islamic like terrorism, or like nowadays if you think of terrorism, people usually they picture somebody who's Muslim, but terrorist attacks via like Muslims was very rare prior to like the 80s. And a lot of it originated like within this particular region between Afghanistan and Pakistan. And when the Soviets went into Afghanistan, a lot of Pakistan gave like they pretty much created these towns, these indoctrination centers for all the children that fled, to raise them to be militants against like any governments they don't agree with in Afghanistan. And that pretty much led to the Taliban. And the Taliban was also fostering Al-Qaeda. And that was like the point where you really started to see this uptick in like terrorist attacks, and it was all due to these regimes that were being supported by all these other governments during the Cold War. And Pakistan, has also kind of created their own like demon that they can't control. So now they're probably going to go into Afghanistan. And ironically, the Taliban, which now controls Afghanistan, they're also fighting a massive ground war with ISIS. So I guess now they're involved in a two-front war. And this is the Pashtun region. So I think in most of Afghanistan they speak Persian, but this is another ethnic group where part of it's in Pakistan, part of it's in Afghanistan. So that's more awkward borders drawn up by like the British mandate post-World War II.
Operation within Iran itself, and that since June, since the 12-day war, this has, you can probably hear one of the intercepts going off just over there, since the 12-day war they've been trying to get weapons into the country in order to give the Iranian Kurdish fighters an opportunity to start to try and take positions within Iran. Now, this is entirely hugely significant without question, because of course...
Welcome to the News Hour on this day 4 of the American-Israeli war with Iran. And while U.S. and Israeli jets continue their punishing attacks inside Iran, the Islamic Republic has widened its targets throughout the Arab states of the Gulf and against Israel.
American diplomatic targets in the Gulf were hit overnight, and almost all the civilian airspace throughout the region remains closed. The U.S. State Department, after telling hundreds of thousands of Americans to leave of their own accord and on their own, reversed course today and said the U.S. is working to provide military and charter flights to evacuate Americans wishing to leave. All the while, the death toll from the American-Israeli bombardment mounted inside Iran. Nick Schifrin again begins our coverage.
In Tehran, the iconic Freedom Square engulfed.
Now, currently we've created another refugee crisis in Lebanon, because a lot of the Lebanese that are in the middle of all the strikes via Israel are trying to leave. So we're probably going to create a refugee crisis in Iran. So we're getting all the Americans out. What are we going to do with the refugees?
War. Rescue workers responded to an apparent Israeli airstrike that left
cars. Do you think Kuwait and other surrounding Gulf states, I mean, I guess they could go to Iraq,
charred and pedestrians stunned. And jets targeted what remains of Iran's leadership. This building housing a regime advisory council was flattened. Just to the south, An Israeli official confirms it targeted a meeting of senior clerics choosing the next supreme leader. Iranian state media claimed those clerics are all safe. But tonight, Israel says it also struck what it called a, quote, secret nuclear headquarters, where Israel says Iran had shifted its nuclear infrastructure after it had been struck by the United States last summer. Across the capital, explosions sparked defiance.
The Americans think they can force us to surrender with missiles and so on, but they can't do such wrong things. We'll certainly defeat them.
And pain.
They killed all of my people. They dropped bombs. They hit us again. They killed people's children.
Many children today were laid to rest, one with her backpack still on. Iran says a strike killed more than 100, mostly school children. The U.S. says it's investigating. But the war is spreading.
I mean, Trump said that it was Iran that did it, so Trump never lies. When you fact check the stuff that Trump says in front of a bunch of reporters or in front of a lectern, it's always 100% accurate.
Pounded Beirut, targeting the senior leadership of Iranian ally Hezbollah. Commercial airplanes are still taking off, even though one flew into the smoky sky. Israel also deployed troops into southern Lebanon in what an IDF official said was not deep but spread widely. They're responding to Hezbollah rockets and a warning today of, quote, all-out war. Today, thousands of Lebanese families filled roads away from the Israeli border, fleeing a war they didn't sign up for. But Iran is resisting this Israeli-American war by targeting American soil in the region. Today, U.S. officials said an Iranian drone struck the parking lot next to the Dubai consulate's main building. Nobody was injured. But this Iranian drone attack follows another one overnight on the embassy in Riyadh and an attack on Sunday on the embassy in Kuwait.
Our embassies and our diplomatic facilities are under direct attack from a terroristic regime.
Today on Capitol Hill, Secretary of State Marco Rubio urged all Americans across the region to leave as quickly as possible.
We have identified and continue to identify charter flights, military flight options, and expanded commercial flight options, meaning working with the airlines to send bigger airplanes with more seats.
Last night, the State Department told Americans across 14 countries to evacuate immediately. U.S. officials says that includes more than 1 million.
Wait, Qatar, Lebanon, Egypt. Huh. I don't know why they would be that much at risk if they're in Egypt, but
just that whole area.
Well, I mean, Egypt's pretty like far west compared to all these other like areas. I can understand like Iraq borders Iran and like all of these. Well, I guess it's close to it borders like Israel, so maybe that's a
people. 9,000 Americans have managed to leave the region, alongside Europeans relieved to be back home.
You hear the bombings or them stopping the bombing, and I mean, it's really, really strange. I mean, it's not a nice situation and environment to be in at all.
The challenge we are facing is airspace closures. If a country closes their airport, for example, in some cases the airports have been hit. So the airport in Kuwait was hit. So if an airport's been attacked or the airspace is closed, then we can have the planes lined up to go, but we can't get them to land because we don't have the permissions to land there.
If it's not unprecedented, it is unusual in its scope.
Ambassador Janice Jacobs had a more than 30-year career in the State Department and was President Obama's most senior State Department official in charge of helping Americans overseas.
I think the first advice was to tell people to shelter in place. Now we're telling them to leave. It is a challenge, no question about it, because airports are closed, airspace is closed.
Why wasn't there an evacuation plan, and will you send planes to get people out?
Well, because it happened all very quickly. We thought, and I thought maybe more so than most, I could ask Marco, but I thought we were going to have a situation where we were going to be attacked.
Today, President Trump
We were going to be attacked?
Yeah, Iran was going to attack us.
tied the evacuations to his argument that he had no choice when to start the war.
You see, we were having negotiations with these lunatics, and it was my opinion that they were going to attack first. They were going to attack. If we didn't do it, they were going to attack first. I felt strongly about it.
So, does Iran have intercontinental ballistic missiles?
No,
I don't think they do. And if you want to attack another country without like intercontinental like ballistics, then you pretty much need to have a strong enough navy to attack them directly. And there's a very large body of water that separates the United States from like Iran. Do you know what that is?
No clue.
You know?
I don't know the oceans like you do.
I mean,
There's like Atlantic.
Well, it's
the Gulf of
the Atlantic, the Pacific, and I guess it has to go through the Indian Ocean.
Yeah,
through the Atlantic.
Yeah,
or...
but I can't like picture them on the map, Gene.
Yeah.
Don't look at me like I'm dumb, because I am.
The war has challenged the U.S.'s ability to deploy enough missiles to intercept Iranian drones.
Do you think they will send ground troops? It looks like there's a lot of like evidence that kind of hints towards that happening. I hope they don't. I don't think I don't want this war to go on for like longer than it is now, so I'd like it to end as soon as possible. And once you put boots on the ground, that's kind of a sign that you fucked up. You're not really able to achieve your objective through like just air raids or like bombings alone. So This could turn into like just another forever war, like Operation War on Iraq, or like our war in Afghanistan that lasted for over a decade.
And missiles across a dozen countries. And enough munitions to wage a war the president said was planned to last about a month. The US
and the thing is, troops are pretty much used because it's like to clear out buildings. It's like, for the most part, infantry is obsolete, but if you want to go after, I don't know, different regimes, if they're hiding, you want to go after like the Ayatollahs, you got to put boots on the ground to go in and arrest them or take them out if they're underground or inside like different facilities. And then it's like, okay, well, where are they hiding? So you need to, you can destroy a bunch of military bases and everything, but if you want to topple a government, it's like if they're still there governing, it's like all you're going to do is create a bunch of collateral in the region, and a lot of times that gives people in the region who might not support those regimes some greater enemy to like fight against. But the thing is, in the modern age, you can't really go in and colonize a country. So if you want it to, and that's the problem with like Iraq and everything. It's like if you want to stabilize the region yourself as a foreign like actor, then you kind of have to install your own laws, your own government there. And at that point, you're colonizing them. They're turning them into a territory. You can't do that. So then what happens is like the troops that are deployed there, if you don't want to claim that's colonization, it's only war, then the operations are them trying to find out where these particular enemies are, where they're located. And what all the like troops did in the war in like Iraq and Afghanistan is they pretty much acted as like a makeshift terrorist investigation agency, where it's just trying to gather the intelligence of where they're hiding and then sending the troops in to do raids to try to find them, apprehend them. And then that takes fucking forever. At that point, it's kind of like just the war on drugs, where it's like, hey, where are the cartels located? Who's actually part of the cartel? Where are like these group of like 30, 40 militants? Where are they residing? Okay, we found out where they are. Send in the Marines. Send in the like the SEALs, and that's something that takes fucking forever. So if they want to accomplish the goal here, toppling the regime, it's probably going to take. They're going to have to put boots on the ground. It's going to take a pretty long time.
The war has entered a new phase, and they can now use weapons that are more plentiful, leading to President Trump last night to write, "We have a virtually unlimited supply of these weapons. Wars can be fought forever, and very successfully, using just these supplies." That is a stunning reversal to first-term Donald Trump.
He said, who is winning the war, us or Israel? What do they mean by, like, us?
U.S. or Israel?
U.S. or... I would say no one's winning the war.
The U.S. is always winning.
Well, like, nothing ever fucking changes in these regions, and I went over all these other wars throughout the 20th century where they got involved and resulted in a lot of collateral. They would try to install, like, some new government through some kind of coup, and it backfires, so it doesn't really seem like it improves things for any of the governing bodies involved.
Ending the endless wars. We're all over the world fighting wars. Half the places, nobody even knows what they're doing over there. But really the plan is to get out of endless wars, to bring our soldiers back home, to not be policing agents all over the world.
We will keep America out of foolish, stupid, ridiculous foreign wars.
But the U.S. is warning tonight this foreign war will last as long as necessary.
We begin tonight here with the breaking news in the war in Iran. Tonight, U.S. embassies and consulates coming under attack and Americans stranded.
Somebody said, what do you think India, or what do you think India stands? I don't know, like India, I think they're more likely to get involved with what's going on with Pakistan and Afghanistan because they're constantly butting heads with like Pakistan, but I don't think India is going to get involved at all with what's going on in Iran.
Lost the region. Late today, a drone strike reported near the U.S. consulate in Dubai. The drone coming down in a parking lot, fire breaking out. Just hours earlier, 2 drones hitting the U.S. Embassy in Saudi Arabia. At least 6 embassies in the region now closed tonight. And this evening, 24 hours after the State Department urged all Americans to leave the Middle East. Secretary of State Marco Rubio late today saying they're now preparing military flights, charter flights, even coming up with land routes for Americans to try to get to other countries to try to get out. And tonight, with Iran essentially shutting down the Strait of Hormuz, where so much of the world's oil passes through, President Trump is now saying he will call on the U.S. Navy to escort ships through if necessary. ABC's chief foreign correspondent Ian Pannell leading us off from the region again tonight.
Tonight, U.S. embassies and consulates under attack from Iran, with U.S. citizens trapped in the war-torn region. The State Department now scrambling to secure military aircraft and charter planes to get them out, after telling Americans in 14 countries to evacuate. Tonight, video verified by ABC News shows an Iranian drone slamming into the US consulate in Dubai. The explosion and fire in a parking lot next to the consulate. The US embassy in Amman, Jordan, also targeted. And drone strikes shutting down the US embassy in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Officials say so far no one's been injured in these strikes. And tonight, with Americans stranded across the Middle East, our Karen Travers asking President Trump, was there not a plan for this before attacking Iran?
Commercial air travel right now is severely restricted in the Middle East, and thousands of Americans are stranded. Why wasn't there an evacuation plan, and will you...
Do you think Trump didn't think things through, or his administration?
I think you think that.
send planes to get people out?
Trump always thinks 20 steps ahead.
Because it happened all very quickly.
Late today, Secretary of State Marco Rubio
happened all very quickly.
Planned to get Americans out.
And it'll be a variety of methods: charter flights, military flights and transports, expanded commercial opportunities, and in some cases land routes that will allow them to go to neighboring countries who might have open airports at that point.
Tonight, the president saying he was, quote, surprised by the scope of Iran's retaliation across the region, even though Iran had clearly warned how it would respond.
I was surprised, I think, and now those countries are all fighting against them and fighting strongly against them.
Tonight, Iran effectively shutting down the Strait of Hormuz, where 20% of the world's oil flows, sending oil and gas prices up already. Tonight,
now, I do think it was stupid for the Ayatollah, which of course never condone attacking civilians or civilian infrastructure, but like the Arabian states, like they're not really harming them at all by bombing like buildings and stuff like in all the rich Gulf states. So their best tactic would probably be to not piss off neighbors in the surrounding region, because they're likely to not get as involved as they would if they were attacked directly, even if they're going to be involved to some extent.
And Trump saying if necessary.
And then like other countries that might get involved in terms of like, I guess the socioeconomics, whether they're going to support sanctions or whether they'll like continue to trade with which players involved. If they just kind of stand their ground and don't attack other like countries like in the Gulf states, then other countries might be willing to actually trade with them regardless. But yep.
US Navy will provide escorts for ships in the Strait of Hormuz. As US and Israel launching another wave of strikes on Iran. More than 700 Iranians killed, according to the Red Crescent. Today, there was a mass burial for the victims of the school attack, which left more than 160 dead. The Pentagon yet to explain what happened. And Israel saying it struck an area in Qom where Iran's Interim Leadership Council was meeting to appoint a new supreme leader. Tonight.
Okay, so there's been close to there's been over 700 civilian deaths. So before 9/11, I think the largest killing of U.S. citizens was the Jonestown massacre, where he had them all drink the Flavor Aid. And I think it was like around 800 something people died. So, I mean, just imagine 800 Americans died within the span of less than a week.
Verified videos online showing the...
I'd assume someone has some really good bombs.
Somebody said, what are you talking about? I'm just trying to get people to envision. Like, a lot of times people have a difficult time relating to people who are non-white English speakers overseas. So it's just people don't think about it when a commercial airliner gets shot down and like 400 people or like 100 something people die. But it's like, imagine if an airplane was shot down by Mexico or Canada and like 200 U.S. citizens died.
Yeah.
It's
I
like
think we'd ruin them.
Well, like people would be talking about it for months afterwards.
Area where those meetings were allegedly being held, reduced to
Like,
rubble.
imagine if, like, a foreign state, like, imagine if an entire school was blown up and they killed, like, 200 children.
I like this one. 80% of Americans couldn't point where Iran is in a recent government study.
Yeah, I mean, our education is on a decline.
Iran denying they were meeting there.
Yeah, I mean, is it like they couldn't find it on a map where all the countries were labeled? That's pretty bad, but it's all blank. I mean...
Wait, well, I mean, and 60% of the British couldn't point it out.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it is pretty bad how little, like, Americans know about geography. I mean, illiteracies.
Yeah, I think we just think everything's here in the U.S. Like, and, I mean, sometimes I can kind of see why.
Well, I do think, in our educational system is failing gone over that, and the people don't discuss it at all. And the Trump administration is deeply concerned with deporting all the illegals, which it's like, you know what, I think a bigger concern is our decline in education, like our declining literacy rates. And every time you bring up literacy, people freak out or whatever. You're just being pretentious, but it's like something like 20% of Americans are functionally literate. Mm-hmm. Most Americans read or write at or below an 8th grade level.
Trump asked who'll lead Iran next.
Most of the people we had in mind are dead. So, we had some in mind from that group that is dead. And now we have another group. They may be dead also, based on reports.
The president was asked what the worst case would be for Iran's next leader.
The worst case would be we do this and then somebody takes over who's as bad as the previous person, right? That could happen.
Tonight, the Pentagon identifying 4 of the 6 service members killed after that Iranian strike in Kuwait on a U.S. tactical operations center. U.S. officials tell ABC News that facility did not have adequate defenses, making them vulnerable to aerial attacks. And after 3 U.S. F-15 fighter jets were shot down over Kuwait by friendly fire, one of them seen spiraling to the ground. Go! Remarkable video, verified by ABC News circulating online, shows the tense moments as locals confront one of the downed American pilots, approaching one with a pipe. His parachute still attached. That pilot putting his hands up and kneeling before the men realized he was an American.
You're safe, you're safe.
And this video showing Kuwaitis finding another one of those pilots.
Thank you for helping us.
After she's safely ejected too. David, amid this scramble to get Americans out, the State Department telling people to call a hotline. But when you dial the number, an automated message saying, do not rely on the US government for evacuation at this time. David?
Wow, there is an intense scramble.
Jesus.
Those Americans you just heard from are just some of the tens of thousands trying to escape the war zone with limited options by land, sea, and sky. Boat traffic has largely come to a standstill in the region, with Iran effectively closing the only passage out of the Persian Gulf, the Strait of Hormuz. And a majority of commercial airspace is still shut down. You can see all the red zones where airlines have canceled their flights. Many Americans now turning to private companies to help them get out. Dale Buckner is the CEO of Global Guardian, which provides private security resources all around the globe. Dale, thanks so much for joining Top Story tonight. I understand your organization, from what you've said, has helped roughly 3,000 people get out of the Middle East since this weekend.
Now, something that I don't get is that with our military, especially our Navy, they're not able to get a single naval vessel through that is able to transport the civilians that they need to evacuate. When it came to getting food into Gaza, when the Biden administration or whatever, he built that fucking pier, and it's just the U.S. Navy, if they wanted to, it's they could easily transport different humanitarian aid vessels to the coastlines to get all the food in there. It doesn't have to even get there through 8 trucks, and I just wonder why they never really take advantage of the excessive amount of naval vessels that they have that they have available to actually utilize in these kind of scenarios.
Walk us through how this works, and if you need to get an American, say, out of Dubai, for example, what does that path look like?
Yep, thank you, Tom. You are correct. We crossed over 3,000 evacuees here on day 5. Number one, starting with an example coming out of Dubai, it's about journey management. It's about preparing the client of where they're going to consolidate, what kind of vehicle they're going to get on, and giving them an expectation of how long is that trip from Dubai to the border of Oman. What does the crossing look like right now? 3-4 days ago, we could cross in 45 minutes. Now it might be 5 hours. And then from the border crossing into Muscat, putting them in a hotel, and then waiting on either a commercial flight or what has become much more prevalent of getting them out on charter private flights, typically to Europe.
Talk to me about some of the scenes that you're encountering, some of the stories you're hearing from your clients.
Okay, next vid.
The scent of war had been in the air for weeks. Everyone was waiting for the day the U.S. and Israel would.
It's you know how before natural disasters, earthquakes, tsunamis, animals can kind of sense it coming for the humans. Imagine that all the animals are unease. They know that war's around the corner.
Iran. Friday afternoon was surreal. It was as if people had come to the roof of Tehran to say farewell to the era of the Islamic Republic. Young and middle-aged alike, pointing at familiar places, taking pictures with the landscape. It was like they could feel it was going to be the last time, and they wanted to remember it this way, clean and untouched by smoke. On Saturday morning around 9:30, I woke to the sound of repeated phone calls. My partner's voice was trembling. They hit, they hit. I jumped out of bed, checked the news, and saw the headlines. Tehran was under attack. I grabbed my motorbike, found my photographer friend, and we started filming and taking photos. People were terrified and confused, rushing in every direction. The streets were gridlocked. Everybody had left work. They just wanted to get home, to be beside their family. My friends were leaving the city. Tehran was emptying out. Around 4 p.m., The regime supporters gathered in Palestine Square, shouting to the world that they would fight to the death.
امروز تکرار می‌کنیم این ملت هرگز دست از شما نخواهد کشید.
They said a video message from Khamenei would soon be broadcast, unaware he was already dead. By nightfall, around 9 p.m., I heard cheers and screams outside. People were shouting from the windows, "The dictator is dead." My phone kept ringing. I couldn't believe it. No one could believe he was finally dead. By 5 a.m., the government confirmed it. Within hours.
In Iran, no revolution. Why? Well, I would say the people who don't support the regime that may want to revolt, it's kind of hard when large amounts of airstrikes are like falling from the sky all over the place.
Tens of thousands of loyalists flooded Enclave Square.
And I mean, you did have those huge protests, like when they did, the police murdered that like young woman who wasn't wearing her hijab. They were all going out on the streets, and unlike in the United States where people don't need to worry about being arrested or killed, I guess could happen, but people kind of take freedom of speech for granted. It's like when people in like Burma were protesting, when the junta arrested their president, or people protesting Iran, they're doing that when they know that what they're doing technically is illegal. They're putting their like freedom at risk. So I don't know, maybe they're not out there like revolting or seizing the opportunity because Israel and the United States are busy dropping bombs throughout all the cities.
They were weeping, tearing at their faces. Their father was gone. They would console themselves with the thought that Khamenei wanted to become a martyr. On the way back home, I passed like-minded people, and we were secretly smiling and winking at each other. By Monday evening, powerful blasts echoed once more. I rushed to the rooftop. Neighbors from nearby buildings were on their roofs too. Everyone's talking loudly. Where did it hit? Which target? No one sought shelter underground. They stood watching instead, witnessing how regime repression institutions were turning into ash before their eyes. My neighbor leaned in and whispered, "The end is near. This time it's different." But in their eyes, I saw something else. They were deeply worried.
Every day it seems this war spreads somewhere new. Today it was the Azerbaijani enclave of...
They did it abruptly. Where's Bill Hicks and Nicholas Rosa?
Nicholas is probably there, but I don't know about Bill.
Well, here, I have to pee. I'm gonna hold down the chat.
No, I don't know what to say.
Talk to the chat.
I'm gonna sit here quietly.
No, you can't do that.
What am I supposed to say? I don't know anything because I haven't been reading.
I don't know. We need to get Bill Hicks in here.
Don't scoot me over. Don't look at this messy room. And love US because it respects other life. Whatever floats. Excuse me. My gosh. I don't think I've been getting good sleep. That was fast. Are you in the kitchen?
Give me my medication.
Don't be dilly-dallying.
You want me not to take my medication?
Don't trigger me.
Were you talking in the chat?
Jean, stop. What are your hobbies?
My hobbies are talking about people going to war and murdering each other on the internet. Because human beings suck.
Nakhchivan, an airport terminal hit by an Iranian drone. Then a second strikes nearby. That one close to a
Thing. Okay, I think I have to be like this.
Children's screams audible from inside. 4 people were injured in the attack, which Azerbaijan says came after it had agreed to help Iran evacuate its diplomats from Lebanon.
In return for all of this, to strike Nakhchivan in an ugly, cowardly and shameless manner, this stain will never be erased from their ugly and unsightly face.
But Iran seems to be seeing... seeking maximum chaos and
Is
disruption.
Azerbaijan that one really, is it socialist or communist, where the government pays for like everything, or the government owns everything?
I don't think they're communists.
Okay, well, I don't know. Is it the one where the government owns everything?
Well, communism's where,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
But
Well, we watched some video on some country, and they were communists, and it was really interesting.
yeah, most of the world's remaining communist
Oh,
countries.
Turkmenistan?
Yeah.
Is that one? Okay.
And their leader is fucking crazy.
Base had been acting as a narrow diversion route for air traffic trying to avoid wars in Ukraine and Iran. Shipping traffic also under Iranian assault. 2 oil tankers attacked today in the northern Gulf. Lloyd's insurance market says 1,000 ships, $25 billion worth, are currently stuck in the Gulf, with Iran reiterating that it controls the narrow Strait of Hormuz. And another attack this afternoon on Bahrain, missiles targeting a refinery belonging to the national oil company.
My God.
Fear in the region that Iran will still be able to launch drones, even as its missiles and launches are depleted and destroyed. And as someone who knows something about Iranian-designed Shahed drones, Volodymyr Zelensky confirming today that the US administration, so capricious in its own assistance to Ukraine...
Well, I think somebody asked, like, why Russia, China aren't getting involved. Russia likely aren't getting involved because they're too busy fighting Ukraine.
Had asked for Ukrainian
in a war that probably is going to go on for another 3 or 4 years. Like the Iran-Iraq war.
in defending against drone attacks in the Middle East.
Qatar, Emirates, Bahrain.
He said he'd been talking with all Middle Eastern leaders, conversations that showed everyone needed air defense. Ukrainian specialists, he said, were on the way. In Iran today, no let-up in the US-Israeli assault. This said to be a strike on a Revolutionary Guards facility in Bushehr. A series of sporting arenas also hit, this one in Tehran, a suggestion that regime forces might be using them. Iran state media posted this video, which it said showed the aftermath of an attack in West al-Haramabad, entitling it Gifts from America. America's objective in launching this war again seeming to shift today. President Trump telling Reuters the US would have a role in selecting Iran's new leader. Earlier this week he speculated about someone as bad as the previous leader taking over. And he started the war, telling Iranians once it was over, the government would be theirs for the taking. In northern Israel, more forces arrived.
Well, at least like with Venezuela, they're kind of in and out. So it was an operation that was executed very quickly, decisively. Here, lots of people are dying, and it seems like they murdered them pretty quickly, but they don't really have the kind of control over their, I guess, government system as they did immediately after they went into Venezuela.
Driving ahead of a push deeper into Lebanon, targeting Hezbollah fighters. Further north, panic and gridlock in the capital, Beirut, after an unprecedented Israeli pre-bombing evacuation warning, encompassing virtually the entire southern half of the city. And tonight, similar, if smaller-scale warnings for people in Tehran, telling civilians to get out of industrial zones. A war broadening beyond Iran's borders, expanding also within them.
Well, let's look in more depth now at what is happening in Lebanon and those people fleeing Beirut's...
Mixed fit.
Are Gulf states running out of air defense interceptors? Iran fired more than 400 ballistic missiles at Arab states in the first few days of this conflict. Iran is also firing drones. If Iran conserved the rate of launch, they could go on like this for weeks. Like all countries, Gulf states have a limited stockpile of the interceptors that go into...
Now, Israel, they have like the Iron Dome and the Iron Beam. So they seem to have endless stockpile of like interceptor drones, but seems like they're probably going after the Gulf states, because even though they might have a decent supply, they can actually deplete, or they can fire at them until like their supply is depleted, so they're more vulnerable.
Missile defense systems. On March 3rd, Qatar and the UAE strongly denied claims they were running low. There's no reliable data on how many interceptors...
Yeah, Zenemy makes a good point. Yeah, Venezuela doesn't really have much of a military. Iran does.
These Arab countries had to begin with. A crude estimate would suggest Arab countries might have burned through more than 800 air defense interceptors for their Patriot, THAAD and other systems in just a couple of days. If this goes on for more than 10-12 days, you will see shortages. You will have to see rationing of where these things are used. And you will see more Iranian missiles get through. The good news is that Iran has not been able to keep up that rate of fire. We had a press conference from General Dan Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
And I think that's one of the things they were trying to do when they attacked Israel, is that they were trying to deplete their stockpile of interceptors, projectiles, because maybe it would allow Hamas or other combatants to be able to get some of their projectiles through. So some of it is kind of like a logistics game.
said was that Iran's theater ballistic missile launches were down
86% from the first day of fighting. Our one-way attack drone shots are down 73% from the opening days.
That suggests Iran is either conserving its missiles, or, more likely, it is struggling to launch them under the pressure of American and Israeli airstrikes. Gulf Arab states may find the challenge of interception begins to ease over the coming days, rather than provoking an immediate crisis. Some people think Iran may be holding back, waiting for air defense interceptor stockpiles to be depleted, at which point they can then try to overwhelm those defenses with much bigger salvos of missiles.
Wow.
But my gut feeling is that Iran really is struggling to launch missiles. There have been some reports that Gulf states are getting twitchy, urging America to stop the war early for fear of their cities and infrastructure being pulverized by Iranian missiles. In fact, in private, Gulf officials seem remarkably bullish. They show little sign of opposing one of Donald Trump's stated war aims, to raise Iran's missile industry to the ground.
I don't know, do you see any buildings like this in Baltimore?
Yep.
There you go.
Building where all the windows were knocked out.
Well, was it this uneven?
I took the pictures. It was brick instead of concrete.
Next vid.
Senior international correspondent Jason Bellini is in Tel Aviv.
Oh, Brian's in the chat. God, he's late to the stream.
I'm coming to you from Givatayim. This is a suburb to the north of Tel Aviv. This is the location where a cluster munition fell from the sky last night, damaging an apartment building. People have been here all day, volunteers cleaning up from the damage of this. There's been glass all over the street, and we've seen cars that had their windows blown out. And more than anything else, it just caused terror because it's random. There's no military facilities around here, to the best of our knowledge. This is just a standard apartment building. This is what's happening right now in Tel Aviv, even though they've got the Iron Dome.
Dude, how dare they attack civilians? You don't see Israel or the United States doing that.
Taking out most of these ballistic missiles from Iran. The other news we're tracking from here, Iran's Navy decimated, according to U.S. officials who say that there have been 30 naval vessels that have been destroyed, and one of them includes, put it in quotes, a carrier. This is not an aircraft carrier, but a drone carrier that's apparently the Iranians were very proud of, and the United States was very proud to have destroyed. Iran's Navy has been a priority for the U.S. and
I was
Israel.
going to say, like, aircraft carriers, pretty fucking expensive, and there aren't too many of them. I didn't know Iran had any aircraft carriers, or they're claiming it's a drone carrier, but still, like, there's only, like, 12 countries on the planet that have any. Most of them only have, like, one or two. The United States has, like, 20-something aircraft carriers.
Because of its ability to drop mines that could damage shipping, but also hurt naval assets and cause destruction to U.S. naval assets in this war. And developments as well to the north of Israel in Lebanon, in the Dahiyah neighborhood of southern Beirut. That's where Israel is concentrating its fire right now. And
next vid.
President Trump says he wants unconditional surrender from the Iranians. He is seeking to bomb his way to it.
Man, are you getting tired?
For those who lived through the barrage in Tehran, last night was said to be the worst bombardment so far. The death toll is now over 1,000.
Now, the person filming it, it's like when they're seeing, like, the constant bombardment, what do you think's going through their head as they're filming it?
I don't know. What do you think is going through their head?
Well, I don't know. They probably feel pretty, like, certain that it's going to continue to be targeting that one spot. Like, if I were them, I'd try to get out of there.
Bodies hauled from beneath homes, their war at an end. For others, it goes on. Merciless, relentless.
On the target. Red Crescent, Israel, there was leaked footage from, like, I think it was a little over a year ago, where they actually gunned down, like a medical, like, aid vehicle that was a Red Crescent vehicle.
And potentially victims of the latest wave, senior politicians targeted in an underground bunker. Surrender or die, the message delivered from 50 fighter jets. President Trump says he is neutering those who govern this country. We will see in the coming
Are they using bunker busters?
hours who lived and who died.
I mean, that's what they used against all their, nuclear, research facilities.
Yet Iran still has the power to do its own harm, repeatedly striking Kurdish bases over the border with Iraq amid preparations for an American-backed ground operation. With warnings of a lethal, decisive response. Such warnings do not deter the Iranian Kurds.
Everyone is fighting for their own benefit. The United States and Israel are fighting for their benefit, and we are fighting for ours. Sometimes those benefits come together for all our benefit.
In Kuwait today, the siren...
I do think the Kurdish rebels, they actually did support the United States. During the Syrian civil war, they supported them, fighting against ISIS.
And distant thuds reminded of the physical and economic damage this war...
Oh, someone... Oh, they said bye.
So you're calling you Noam Chomsky.
I'm sorry. You need to subscribe to us. We try to stream at least once a month. But it seems like you enjoy the streams, so we do appreciate the activity.
...is doing to the Gulf. With constant attacks on oil and gas plants.
Usually we're more well organized than this. This isn't our typical format.
And the money are now raising their own alarm. Qatar's foreign minister saying that a continuation of this war could bring down economies and send oil prices soaring. As such, there are frenzied efforts at global mediation. A loss of money, seemingly focusing minds.
She's like, whatever. Are you so indifferent, Kimberly?
I'm acting like you tonight.
I don't know. You're acting like me.
I am indifferent.
In a way, the loss of life does not.
When you were in Texas, you were a lot more engaged.
Well, I'm thinking about
10,
other shit right now and dealing with other shit. Did you know that? Did you know?
Okay, I didn't
you
know
don't
that.
know what it takes to move across the
Romilly's
country.
in Washington tonight, and good evening to you, Romilly. Donald Trump seems to have redefined the mission of this war.
It's just after 2 in the morning. We're live in Dubai, in the Gulf, a region very much in the sights of
Gene and Kimberly sharing a mic. Yep.
Iranian drones and missiles fired from over the waterway just off in the distance behind me there. This is the 7th day of a conflict that's dragged in regional neighbors, claimed many lives, and threatens the global economy. Today alone, the Israel Defense Force says it's hit 400 targets inside Iran.
I will say, even if this isn't ethical, I do think it's definitely, smart what they're doing. If they can't defeat America in terms of, military strength of combat, block all of the oil shipments between, the...
Who's ethical or not ethical?
Well, it's not ethical, but their strategy of, destroying all the oil, Iran and their regime. Destroying the oil tankers and stuff, then cutting off, that supply chain of 20% of the world's oil.
With the Iranian Red Crescent saying more than 1,000 people have died so far, while Donald Trump is warning...
Well, I do like Noam Chomsky. Have read a lot of his books. I do like his book, The Cost or the Price of Capitalism, but I don't really like how turned out there were images of him that surfaced from Epstein's Island. So I really hope he didn't engage in any foul play there. And I do like all the books he's written on Palestine.
Conditional surrender will end the fighting. Tehran continues to hit back, including more strikes on Israel. Well, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has condemned all the violence, saying it's time to stop the fighting. Well, the US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says US attacks on Iran will surge dramatically in the coming days after what was an already very heavy night of bombing. In fact, residents
they want to be our friend.
Maybe just yours.
Do you know how to pronounce their name, YouTube name?
Is there Sanchitlas? Yeah.
Well, be our friend by joining our Discord and subscribing to our channel.
Iranian capital Tehran have told BBC Persian that last night was the worst of the conflict. And today, Israel released footage of a strike involving...
I subscribe to pretty much every major news network. So, I don't know. I think people should try to get their information from as many different sources as possible.
50 fighter jets targeting the Iranian regime's military command bunker under a compound in central Tehran. Well, Lise Doucette, our chief international correspondent, has our top story tonight on day 7 of the war.
Tonight, in the last light of dusk, the dark rises in Tehran. the massive explosions which multiply as this war enters its second week. By day, more disbelief. Towers of smoke blot the sky. See the white monument on the right? It's Tehran's most famous tower on Azadi, Freedom Square, the place where Iranians have marked the moments which matter. A new phase in the conflict. That's how the country's
Imagine driving to work and you just see the smoking building and then just a bomb hits.
These missiles, Israel and America have described this moment. All of Iran is in their sights. In the southern city of Shiraz, buildings were flattened. Emergency teams, including the Red Crescent Society, responded in the dead of night. In the north, their own headquarters...
And I don't know if we'll get to them tonight, but there is this notable increase in attacks towards civilians in the West Bank by Israeli citizens. But in Israel, you have their current war/genocide going on in Gaza. Now they're also butting heads with Lebanon to a notable extent, and they're also involved in this war with Iran. So how many other wars is Israel going to get involved in? Seems like, where do you think they get all the money and all the resources to fight it?
US.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, yeah.
In the city of Mahabad.
Israel's military is pretty much just an extension of the U.S. military. You got the Marines, the U.S. Navy, the Space Force, and then you have the IDF. The IDF is just another branch of the U.S. military.
Was reduced to rubble. The clearing and cleanup have started. Israeli and American bombers now control the skies. They say they've already destroyed 60% of Iran's missiles, sank 24 ships. But their strikes are also smashing into everyday lives. Some residents of Tehran sent us messages through the BBC's Persian service.
The house was shaking for 5 minutes straight. Last night was the worst night. No, I'm not okay. I barely slept last night because of the constant explosions.
It was terrible. They were hitting so hard that all the windows were shaking.
I woke up at...
Somebody says, is it true that Israel is blocking bomb videos? Wouldn't shock me if they are like censoring stuff. I know that in Israel, like of course the Israeli Times has an incredibly biased like lens in terms of like how they go about covering these conflicts, but seems like I don't know, but I think they've been doing that for a while when it comes to trying to create like somewhat of an information filter. But it's not just Israel that does that. Pretty much most of the world's governments will filter out information that isn't really pandering to their particular government and the government's agendas.
Around 4 a.m. from the noise. I could hear the flight jets early in the morning.
Israeli lives are also being...
Maybe let's look up the Freedom of the Press Index. Sorry, we got the mic in front of the keyboard.
Oh, not even in front of the keyboard.
I'm sorry. So Israel is ranked, is it number, okay, it's number 112 out of a couple hundred countries in terms of freedom of the press. So, yep, I don't think they're necessarily being...
Who's number one?
I would guess Norway.
Oh.
Estonia, Netherlands, Sweden, so all the Nordic states, Ireland, Portugal.
So where's U.S.? Oh, interesting. United States of America, Gene. United States.
Well, the United
You
Kingdom,
have to type in
57.
Huh.
Ah.
Panama is, Italy.
Belize. Oh, so Costa Rica is higher than us.
Yeah, Costa Rica.
Yeah, well, if Israel is below half the world's countries, then I wouldn't shock me if they're not being transparent with what footage they're allowing the public to see.
Shattered. This residential building on the outskirts of Tel Aviv took a hit. Today, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited the scene of an Iranian attack earlier this week in Beersheba in the south. 19 Israelis were injured here. But fewer missiles and drones are now slamming into Israeli cities. The President, Isaac Herzog, meeting the US ambassador, hailed their coalition's success.
I believe that the coalition that we are seeing now emanating in the Middle East is a force of good.
This bunker attacked for...
So they got a prime minister and a president. Their president, they just showed there, he's the dude that claimed that all Palestinians or all Gazan citizens are equally responsible. They're all responsible for fostering, Hamas needed not discern whether or not children fall within that classification, or what he's classifying as Gazans. But he pretty much claimed that he supports retaliatory punishment, collective punishment, which falls within the realm of war crime based on the UN.
Second time today was meant to protect Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei. He was killed in the very first salvos, but his clerical order hasn't collapsed.
We have no option just to resist to the last
Somebody asked, where is Brazil? Let's see. Brazil is 63. So, yeah, they're 6 slots behind the US.
That we do have, and to the last soldier that we do have. This is a very heroic, very nationalistic battle for us.
After Friday prayers, the government's supporters braved the bombs in a show of defiance. President Trump is calling for their leaders' unconditional surrender. They're telling him, our fight goes on. Lise Doucette, BBC News.
Well, a giant American bomber capable of carrying 24 cruise missiles has landed in the UK after the Pentagon warned of a surge in strikes on Iran. But when Donald Trump calls for unconditional surrender, what could that mean?
Well, it's BBC, so he seems to pop up whenever there's BBC coverage.
For the course of the war. Sarah Smith has more from Washington.
The Commander-in-Chief welcomed an array of sporting executives to the White House today. He is committed to saving college sports, as well as to defeating Iran. He posted on social media, there will be no deal with Iran except unconditional surrender. Over the last 7 days, there have been confusing and contradictory messages about why the president chose to start this war and what the objectives are. He began by urging the people of Iran, via social media, to...
wouldn't that be like with any regime or whatever? It's like, hey, we're not going to negotiate at all until they surrender unconditionally. Seems like if they don't want to do that, it's going to take a long time to identify every single person that's part of that regime and to, take them all out from bombs from the sky or ballistics without putting troops on the ground. And if you put troops on the ground, then I don't think it's going to be a conflict that's going to only last a few weeks. Seems like it's going to go on for quite a while.
overthrow their government, to change the regime.
I call upon all Iranian patriots who yearn for freedom to seize this moment, to be brave, be bold, be heroic, and take back your country.
But President Trump's team and his supporters shudder at the mention of regime change. It sounds too much like Iraq and Afghanistan. The defense secretary insists this is a very different conflict.
This is not a so-called regime change war, but the regime sure did change.
Donald Trump has said consistently for years that Iran must never have a nuclear weapon. His own intelligence services say that prospect was about a decade away.
An Iranian regime armed with long-range missiles and nuclear weapons.
Well, I mean, so with Afghanistan, the war was against like a militia terrorist group, so the Taliban. So it wasn't even a war against that country's government or military. So there was that issue of like, hey, they're all like bunkering down out in the mountains, like north and everything, like away from Kabul and their cities, and then it's like the military bases were kind of just there to keep them out of the civilian areas to try to, but again, they can't actually enforce any policies. They can't appoint their own sort of politicians in the region. So they can't apply their own governance, because if they did, it's a colony. So that all they can do is have troops there to keep the terror cells from coming in. And then it's impossible to locate where they are and everything. So that's the issue of having boots on the ground, is that it becomes a forever war. Because it's not just a conventional like war where it's like, hey, we have our like military units and stuff. We need to take out their military units. Like that's what Desert Storm was with fighting back like Iraq and getting them out of Kuwait. So that was a direct like military conflict. Now with Iraq, it wasn't even like terrorist militias. They were there, like it made no fucking sense. So you had Operation War on Iraq, where they dismantled the like Saddam regime, but beyond that, it just completely destabilized the region. then they have all the troops there trying to add stability to the region that they destabilized, and it's just, well, if you're not going to actually get invested when it comes to like the policies and everything, then you're not going to be able to change things. So it's a hopeless pursuit. It's like nothing's going to change unless you either break international law and annex the country, turn it into a territory, or if you just have military bases that are there indefinitely, but the military can't actually do anything besides just police things. They can't actually govern.
Would be an intolerable threat to the Middle East, but also to the American people.
His Secretary of State was sent to Congress to brief lawmakers on what the administration wants to achieve in Iran.
So two things can be true. Number one is our mission and our focus is the destruction of their ballistic missile capabilities and their ability to manufacture them, as well as the threat posed by their Navy to global shipping. That's the objective. That said, we would not mind, we would not be heartbroken, and we hope that the Iranian people...
Only 15 million are Arab Muslims in Iran. The rest are Iranians, Persians, and non-Muslims. We just have to make a window for them to be able to overpower the occupying regime. Yeah, I did go over that earlier. Iran used to be called Persia. They changed, I think they changed the name to Iran once the Ayatollahs took over.
Can overthrow this government.
An American B-1 bomber on its way to the Middle East, landing at RAF Fairford in Gloucestershire today, illustrates how the UK changed its stance on the war this week, reversing the original decision not to allow the US access to British bases. The US says it is about to move into a new phase of this conflict and that they will significantly escalate their attacks on Iran in the coming days. While at the same time, President Trump is insisting that he should have a personal say in who becomes the next supreme leader in Iran. He wants somebody who would do business with America.
I mean, like the supreme leader thing, it's pretty much like it's a clerical sort of monarchy. I don't think that's the right way to go. So it's like, hey, like we need to try to get a supreme leader that supports the United States. It's like they probably need to dismantle that supreme leader system and install some kind of like democracy. I mean, whether it's the people in Iran, or the United States, I mean, they shouldn't want like the same kind of government structure, just a more benevolent person who is the head of that structure.
Accede to his demands, basically, including giving up the country's nuclear program. The US did have several people in mind who they thought could take over in Tehran, but they say they have now all been killed in the Israeli and American airstrikes.
Sarah, thank you. Sarah Smith, our North America editor there at the White House. Back here in the Middle East, in the past 24 hours, there have been more Iranian strikes on Gulf states. Here, the UAE says its air defenses have intercepted 9 ballistic missiles and 109 drones today alone. In Bahrain, more drones were shot down. And in Kuwait, a fire could be seen near a military base hosting US forces. Kuwait's defense ministry says...
It's a horse. I think the horse might have PTSD.
67 army personnel have been injured since the war began. Well, Anna Foster is live in the Qatari capital, Doha, for us tonight. Anna.
Well, Clive, in the last hour, the military here says it shot down 9 drones today and another struck in an uninhabited area. And this morning, the Al Udeid air base, the biggest US military base in this whole region, was also targeted by Iran. And what that means is more national security alerts to mobile...
Israel announced more than 80 of its fighter jets attacked what they call...
Did the video start over? Okay, that was weird.
A week into the war, and the missiles are still flying. Iranian missiles are a daily occurrence. Strikes have hit cities across the country. In Beit Shemesh, a direct strike killed 9 people and destroyed residential buildings. Schools are closed, public gatherings restricted. Some hospitals moving operations underground, millions rushing to shelters. But Israel's leader says the objective remains unchanged.
This operation will continue as long as necessary.
For decades, Netanyahu has framed Iran as Israel's central security threat. The objective, regime removal, destroy its nuclear program and blunt its missile power. But as the war enters week 2, the tone is shifting from determination to reassurance.
I hear the people are saying, we're going to have an endless war here. You're not going to have an endless war.
And with elections looming later this year, the stakes are not only strategic, but political.
War is crucially important for Netanyahu because the war completely neutralizes any sort of public or parliamentary...
He's been prime minister for 4 terms.
Netanyahu?
Yeah. So, yeah, it's kind of like, I don't know, he's kind of entering the realm of, or I guess he's not that oppressive towards Israeli citizens who are actually, like, you know, Israeli.
Opposition to him.
This is what Israelis have to deal with every single day ever since the war on Iran was declared. As you can hear, the sound of sirens almost every hour on the hour sometimes, but they're keeping Israelis at home near shelters. On the streets of Tel Aviv, Israelis are weighing the cost.
It's very tiring. It's not as bad as it was in the summer, I would say. Well, I'm not sure if it was a wise decision to start on this.
The conflict is already reshaping daily life, and the economic toll is mounting, with early estimates putting the damage and cost of war in the billions.
You know, it is what it is, you know. War and stuff, we're kind of used to it, I guess, aren't we? We're kind of sick of it, you know. We want to go out, we want to live life normally.
Some residents are sleeping in underground train stations. This West Jerusalem resident is exhausted.
Tired, stressed, feel like we're very...
So, if it ever happens and people dismantle the U.S. government and start bombing the United States, would you hide in, like, the Baltimore subways? Because we're right near the Capitol.
Oh. I don't
You're probably more at
no
risk.
hiding.
You're probably more at risk in the Baltimore subways than you are being on the surface if air raids are taking place.
Over it. It's hard to continue to do this again after the last round. Hard to convince the kids that we need to go down to the shelter, go to the stairwell, get out of bed.
Brian, Trump never lies. If Trump said it, it must be true.
1 week into this war initiated by Israel and the US, Tel Aviv says it will keep up the fight to weaken Iran's regime and military threat. But Iran continues firing missiles at Israeli and US targets, and the region remains tense. Israelis are asking the same simple question: how long will this war last, and what will victory actually look like? Mohammed Al-Qasim, TRT World, Tel Aviv.
Imagery showing the extent of the damage to US military facilities across Gulf Arab countries is starting to
Here, let me turn it down.
emerge, part of Iran's furious response to an Israeli-American campaign that decimated its leadership. At least 9 US military positions have been hit in less than 48 hours. These are relatively close targets. They're much nearer to Iran than its usual target, Israel. That proximity may give Iran's missiles and drones a better chance of hitting their targets. This is the port of Shaiba, where just after 9 a.m. on Sunday morning, an Iranian strike set a makeshift US operations center at the civilian port ablaze. 6 American service members were killed in the attack. You can see smoke rising from the fire. The blown-out 3-wide trailer black...
Zenemy says, Gene, you don't have to worry. If war comes to the U.S., everything anywhere close to D.C. will be a wasteland. Yeah, probably.
On the inside, there are few signs of fortification. In another attack, a drone, this appears to be the Arash-2, crashes into U.S. positions in Camp Buring. A building severely damaged. American helicopters parked inside the base were nearly hit. In Bahrain, a Shahid attack drone flies into the base that hosts the U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet, one of the largest American naval formations in the world. It looks alarmingly defenseless. The drone hits one satellite communication terminal, clearly seen here. But the scale of the damage is more obvious. Here, warehouses and other buildings damaged, and another satellite communication terminal destroyed in a separate attack. We see this pattern of targeting throughout the region. At least 5 satellite communication terminals were destroyed. It points to a possible Iranian effort to cut U.S. bases off from the outside world. Iran used an unprecedented barrage of missiles and drones. U.S. Patriot missiles and other multi-billion-dollar air defense systems shot most of these out of the sky. But the ones that got through were enough to puncture the veil of security around oil-rich Gulf Arab states and the heart of America's security infrastructure in the Middle East.
We have obtained incredible new satellite imagery, and this is really important. It does show extensive damage at military bases across Iran, as you might expect, but that is what it shows. Now, we're using these images to piece together how the United States managed to kill the country's supreme leader and so many around him that they after they thought dark was light, darkness was done, they're going to have this meeting, and was taken out. The U.S., we understand, had secretly been trailing him with intelligence for months. Katie Polglaze is out front with this incredible report.
With Iran very much still under attack, we've been using videos and satellite images like this one of the strike on the Supreme Leader's office to analyse how the senior leadership was dismantled by US and Israeli strikes and where exactly they've hit.
We now know from US and Israeli sources that the CIA, along with Israeli intelligence, had been tracking Iran's senior leadership for months. Then came intelligence about a perfect opportunity to strike in broad daylight when many of Iran's top officials would be in the same place at once.
And that place was here, the leadership house.
Why human is fighting with human? Because human beings suck. People like being tribal and putting other people in other groups based on what border they live in, what language they speak, and other stupid shit, what the color of their skin is. Human beings like killing other humans if they're not like them. But if you're like me, you speak the same language, have the same skin color and everything, you worship the same rain god and so forth, then yeah, no need to fight. We got that other tribe we got to deal with. They're encroaching on our territory.
And the hub of Iran's power. It's also the office of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, now confirmed dead. It's in a very old, traditional Tehran neighborhood, surrounded by government offices, scientific institutions, and museums. Khamenei was known to not leave this compound much. He was seen here in this video just last week, addressing crowds at a mosque. The Israelis say they hit 3 sites on the compound simultaneously. We found several locations that have damage. You can see a central building completely flattened. You can also see 2 craters here. This one appeared to have been targeting an underground structure, according to a former US Special Operations Tactical Advisor, Wes Bryant. Over here, you can see crowds and emergency and construction vehicles. But this wasn't the only location hit. The Intelligence Ministry headquarters was also up in smoke yesterday. And then there's this strike, right outside the house of former Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. He has today been reported dead by some Iranian outlets. CNN has not been able to confirm his death. Ali Shamkhani, a senior advisor to the Supreme Leader, has also been reported dead by the Iranian authorities. He narrowly escaped death last June when Israel struck his home in this precise targeting of a top-floor apartment. Almost miraculously,
So, let's say, hypothetically, this is something that could work, where if you eliminate as many people as needed, you won't have any more, I guess, contenders to, be the head of this regime. How many people would they need to kill through bombings to make that happen?
You tell me.
I don't know.
They're getting emerged from the rubble days later. This time he was not so lucky. But others have been. The Iranian foreign minister here, Abbas Araghchi.
Well, when you have that sort of hierarchy, you see, some kind of taxonomy, how much will it extend down where you have somebody with enough capability and influence where they can still be installed as the next person in charge, and there's enough underlings to actually support the new regime? I don't know. If it's in, the hundreds, I don't think this war is going to end within the next week or month.
Was away in Geneva this week.
And I think it's going to be hard to do that using just ballistics and bombs alone.
The Oman Foreign Ministry posted this picture of him meeting his counterpart just 4 days ago. That trip may have saved his life. But Iran is very much still under attack. This IDF footage from Sunday morning shows a strike on the headquarters of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, the notoriously brutal elite wing of Iran's military. What happens next remains to be seen, but Iran is aggressively fighting back, striking multiple US allies across the Middle East, including the United Arab Emirates. Fires visible here over Dubai's port area, alongside Kuwait, Qatar, and Bahrain.
All right, I want to go to retired Army General Major.
Now, when Khamenei, the first Supreme Leader, took control, he was actually residing, I believe, in France while the revolution was taking place, and he used the radio to kind of rally the masses, get people on his side. He kind of used discourse and publicized sort of rhetoric alone to gain power. So throughout a decent amount of history, it's if you bomb certain parts of a country, you killed enough leaders, it's kind of hard for them to govern if they need to hide in a bunker. But since technology has gotten more advanced and there's things like internet, digital tech, where people can communicate remotely, not just with audio but video as well, it's kind of these people can pretty much govern wherever they please and can continue to communicate certain policies to other people abroad. So it's harder than ever to cut off all the heads of the what is it? Not the Chimera. Is it the Chimera?
I don't know.
Well, whatever. Cutting off all the heads of the demon.
Oh, I'm not gonna...
Oh, you gotta go to bed?
I'm sorry, I'm just really tired and my brain's not working.
Okay. Well, we can end it here. So we've been going on for a while.
Well, don't you want to lecture the chat?
Nah, I'm getting tired too.
You are getting tired. That B12 is wearing off on you.
Yeah. But we do have plenty of content, so go live tomorrow. Maybe. But we did well. 6,421 views. We've had a steady flow of 50, 60 something viewers. But anyway, people, if you want to hear more of our opinions about human beings killing one another across the globe, subscribe. And if we get through all the war stories taking place across the globe, we'll start talking about AI and other news stories that aren't necessarily about human beings killing each other. But subscribe, share the stream, join our Discord, Zenemy, can you put a link to the Discord for people to join? And maybe you can do a gaming stream on our other channel. And yes, Positive Vibes pronounce their name again. I'm bad at pronouncing names.
Sanchitlas, I think. If that's even.
But yes, it's great meeting you too. We need more support. Yes. I'm